Dan gave a great definition of what guerrilla marketing is, but we're going to ask the panel to give a brief definition of guerrilla marketing from their perspective.
And I think it's definitely unconventional. It's going against the grain of all the other marketing noise that's out there that's hitting the targets. And I think it's a little bit like guerrilla warfare, where you do things to get attention, and the best of it hits some kind of strategic target.
I think that what guerrilla marketing requires you to do is to do something consistently, persistently, the same message, a simple message. It's going to be costly in terms of time, so you really want to be careful, maybe even more careful than spending your money, because you can never retrieve time.
Guerrilla marketing is not so much about trying to get by in the least possible money. It's about marshaling your money in a way that you have big impacts in surges of presence in the marketplace, so that the results are disproportionate to the input into the market.
Okay, so this next question is related to Google-like aura. Is that a fluke? Can it be repeated? And how did it happen?
Well, it's one of those things where, being the best among the first in a position that was defining a whole society. I mean, Google came in and became sort of this magic transport into all of information. You don't get those kind of opportunities every day. So that, having the kind of scale of buzz that Google got, it's not something that's going to be repeated. On the other hand, I think that there are some things you can do to get that kind of buzz, marshal your resources so that it happens. But don't expect to have your stock hit $600 right away.
And quite honestly, it took a couple of years for Google to separate itself from this huge field of search engines. And I came across one story in 2000 in which a Northern Lights was ruled a much better search engine than all these others, AltaVista and Lycos and Google. But I think for guerrilla marketing of that magnitude to work is that the product itself has to work for the kind of thing that people want. Now, guerrilla marketing can work for you in a very narrow niche, and that's okay. You may never be known as the Google of your industry, but few people will, but it can still work for you using similar kinds of techniques that they did.
When they got started, if you ask most people, do you need another search engine, the answer would be no. People thought search was pretty much solved. But Google did a few things. Number one, they chose a name that people like to say. It sounds trivial, but compared to all the other kind of techie names that people were using and assigning to search engines, they picked the most consumer-friendly name that would stick in everybody's mind. That was a brilliant decision. The second, they used the asset that's free, which was the founders were really engaging guys, and they went out and talked to the marketplace. And they were relentless, and they were articulate, and they were friendly. So, look, as a marketer, the thing you have to view yourself kind of like a baseball team manager. You have to look around your company and say, all right, who is if I know I have an audience, it's like figuring out which batter can hit which pitcher. You have to figure out which person in your company can best connect with the audience. They had a mantra, right? They went out and they said, we're going to make decisions that, in the context of doing good, and when we can't do that, we're going to do no harm. So that, of course, got a lot of people interested. The last thing that they did was they simply put out a better product.
By far better product.
Yeah, it was very obvious if you're using Google and that time, moving to Google, in the first 2 or 3 experiences you had with it, you were getting better results.
I'd like to add one thing that you said that is very important for this audience to know is that the Google guys can explain their product very simply. Reporters generally, even for tech magazines, are basically generalists, and when you start getting that language, and your eyes glaze over, and I got no clue what this company does. So if you have to explain it simply in words that the user is going to understand, and then the user will try it and say, oh, this was easy, because if they have a bad first experience with your product, they may not come back and use it.
Okay, and let's talk about larger-than-life image. Google definitely has a larger-than-life image. Most of the people represented here won't have a Google success story, but how can you look 10 times, 50 times, 100 times larger than you are?
Just having thought about brand and having something that communicates the value of the company. Visually, a website that's well structured. I know at Integran, the sales guy would always, the VP of sales would always come and say, hey, you know, people are always saying, you guys must be a really good company based on that website.
So your brand should project the company you want to become, not the company you are today.
Yeah.
You need to be looking at what the big guys look like, and all of us have seen the websites for some, you know, some little small company, and it looks like a little small company, but I've been amazed at times when a fairly large, substantial company will look smaller than it is. What entrepreneurs need to get over is this sense of, well, I don't have any employees yet, or my office is in my home, therefore I'm not a big company. You have to go into it with that attitude of professionalism, of where you're going, so that you do project that, and a very big part of the visualness of people who don't see you and don't know you yet would be your web presence, especially in a guerrilla marketing situation where you wouldn't have a lot of TV ads and radio ads and magazines.
Most entrepreneurs who are thinking, they think they're small, so they behave small, right? There's too little emotion marketing. In tech, tell me what it is that you're going to do for me. And then invest in design in order to get that across. I know it's expensive, and people look at graphic designers and say, well, you know, they didn't really do much for that. But the fact of the matter is, design has tremendous impact on how people perceive you. And you know, if you do the investment correctly, if you govern that project correctly, you're going to get 2 to 3 years of life out of that graphic project in order to create brand projection. Make sure that you organize your presentation in the marketplace in a communication hierarchy that engages people, and then if they're interested, then you can give them a funnel to drill down into. Make it kind of user directed at that point. Let people figure out what's meaningful to them rather than trying to manage every nth degree of. Making these kind of investments have a profound impact in the way people perceive you, and you can take doubt off the table because you're walking into an organization, if you're in IT selling, and you're trying to get credibility with the CIO or somebody fairly close to them, and they perceive you as a multi-$100 million company when in fact you're not. It takes a lot of questions off the table.